A $60,000 salary in New York City produces $3,832 in monthly take-home pay after tax. That gap between the gross figure on a job offer and the net figure that lands in a bank account is where most people's financial plans in this city begin to fail. The tax burden has three layers: federal income tax, New York state income tax, and New York City's own resident income tax, which runs between 3.078 and 3.876% on top of the state rate. Add Social Security at 6.2% and Medicare at 1.45%, and roughly $14,000 leaves the $60,000 salary before a single expense. The average effective tax income comes out to approximately 20. According to tax calc, New York State alone has 9 income ranging from 4% to 10.9%. Most salaried workers never see a breakdown of what's being withheld or why. The city also collects an 8.88% combined sales tax, 4% state, 4.5% city, on most retail purchases. It is not a large number on any single transaction, but it compounds across a year of ordinary. The cost of living in New York City runs 75% above the national average. According to Salary.com's 2026 data, housing accounts for the largest share of that gap. Housing costs in New York City are $220 above the national. No other expense comes. By the end of 2020, the median asking rent in Manhattan reached $4,495 a month, according to two-bedroom apartments were approaching $5,500. Those are median figures, the middle of the market, not the top. The citywide average for a one-bedroom apartment across all 5 boroughs stands at $2,367, according to Rent Report data. The conventional financial guide, spending no more than 30% of gross income on housing, places the target rent for a $60,000 earner at roughly $1,150 a month. The citywide average is more than double that figure. Manhattan's median rent exceeds the entire monthly take-home pay. Some property management companies in New York require applicants to demonstrate annual income equal to at least 40 times the monthly rent. On a $2,000 apartment, that threshold is $80,000 per year. On a $60,000 salary, a meaningful portion of the city's rental inventory is inaccessible, not due to the monthly payment itself, but due to the income qualification. Rental prices in New York moved in the opposite direction from the rest of the country in 2024 and 2025. While U.S. rents broadly declined by about 1%, New York rents rose more than 5% year-over. StreetEasy recorded a 4.8% increase in asking rents from January through October 2025. Projections for 2026 indicate the pace of increase is continuing. Within that environment, borough and neighborhood selection is the single most consequential financial decision available to a $60,000 earner in this city. The Bronx is consistently the most affordable borough across all available rent tracking data. The Country Club neighborhood averages $1,750 per month for a one-bedroom apartment. Parkchester, identified by Zumper's 2026 study as the cheapest neighborhood in the city, carries a median rent of $1,800. 4 of the 5 lowest rent neighborhoods citywide are located. The borough maintains direct subway. Queens is currently the only borough where rent, driven by increased housing supply and shifting commuter. Flushing offers one-bedroom apartments at approximately $1,875. Jackson Heights averaged $1,983 as of September 2025. In northern Manhattan, Inwood, Washington Heights, Hamilton Heights, rents are substantially lower than in the rest. Inwood's median one-bedroom sits at roughly $2,125, approximately half the price of apartments in neighborhoods like Nomad, 10 miles to the south. Even at the lower end of the rental market, a $60,000 salary is under pressure without shared housing. According to a 2026 SmartAsset study, sharing a 2-bedroom apartment with one roommate saves $1,730 per month, compared to renting a one-bedroom alone. The average one-bedroom in New York runs $4,380. Split equal. A two-bedroom averaging $5,300 costs each occupant $2,650, a 37.4% reduction in housing cost. SpareRoom's Q2 2025 rental data shows the average cost of a room in a shared New York City apartment at $1,530 per month. Against a one-bedroom average of $4,048, that represents an annual difference of $30,216. Transportation is one area where New York City presents a clear financial advantage over most American cities. Car ownership carries costs that are largely avoidable: financing, insurance, fuel, maintenance, and parking. Annual auto insurance premiums in New York average around $1,500. Before any of those other costs are factored, parking in Manhattan alone can exceed $500 per month. The MTA's current subway fare is $3 per ride for most passengers as of 2026. The MetroCard was retired this year and replaced by a contactless payment system that accepts credit cards, debit cards, and mobile devices. The system includes a weekly fare cap. After $35 in subway and local bus fares paid with the same payment method in a given week, all remaining rides are free. For a standard work commute with additional weekend travel, the monthly transit cost works out to approximately $140. Food costs in New York run above national averages across most categories. December 2025, market data places a gallon of milk at $4.87, a dozen eggs at $4.34, a loaf of bread at $3.97, and a standard cup of coffee $5.99. A daily coffee adds up to roughly $120. Switching from name brand to store brand products reduces grocery costs by 20 to 30%, according to budget analysis data. Grocery chains, including C-Town and Key Food, operate at lower price points than mid-market alternatives. The ethnic grocery in Chinatown, Flushing, and Jackson Heights are consistently identified by residents as offering lower produce prices, attributed to supply chains with fewer intermediaries. A food recovery app called Too Good to Go allows users to purchase surplus food from local restaurants and bakeries, bagels, prepared meals, pastries, at around $5 per bag. Pix11 covered the service in March 2025 in the context of food budgeting in the city. Utility costs in New York City averaged $190 per month for basic electricity, gas, and water as of July 2025, according to ApartmentList data, slightly below the national average of $207. Internet service averages $96.08 per month in New York, compared to $74.17 national, according to highspeedinternet.com, data cited by SmartAsset. Both costs are substantially reduced when split between roommates. Many New York City apartments include heat and hot water in the monthly rent. The terms vary by building and lease agreement, but confirming what is and is not included before signing has a direct effect on monthly utility expenses. Electricity rates are a separate concern. New York's residential electricity rate reached 26.67 cents per kilowatt hour in spring 2025, according to 5 Digital Energy, placing it among the highest rates in the country. Apartments where the tenant pays electricity directly will carry a meaningfully higher utility burden than the national average. New York City also maintains a substantial portfolio of free and reduced-cost cultural institutions. As of January 1, 2026, MoMA PS1 in Long Island City charges no admission. The American Museum of Natural History on the Upper West Side operates on a pay-what-you-wish basis. New York State residents for general admission. The Metropolitan Museum of Art extends the same policy to residents of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, as well as students from those states. The Brooklyn Museum offers pay-what-you-wish admission for its general collection. Central Park covers 843 acres at no cost. The High Line, an elevated park built on a former freight rail line on Manhattan's west side, is free year-round. The Staten Island Ferry operates continuously without charge, with direct views of the Statue of Liberty and the Manhattan skyline. A monthly budget built on the lower end of the available options, a shared room in the Bronx or Queens at approximately $1,530, subway transit at $140, groceries at $300, shared utilities between $50 and $95, split internet at roughly $48, and a phone leaves somewhere between $500 and $630 from a $3,832 take. That margin is narrow. It is enough to service modest savings, but it leaves very little room for irregular expenses. Without shared housing, the same budget narrows to between $100 and $200 per month after fixed costs, based on the citywide one-bedroom average of $2,367. A single unforeseen expense, a medical bill, a transit disruption, an equipment replacement, can eliminate that margin entirely. One additional factor that affects tax exposure: New York City's resident income tax applies only to people who live within the 5 boroughs. Residents of New Jersey, Connecticut, or Westchester County who commute into the city for work do not pay New York City's local income tax. They pay income tax to their home state instead. Some workers make that calculation deliberately. Others arrive at it by circumstance. MIT's living wage research places the minimum hourly wage to cover basic necessities in New York City at $33.31, equivalent to approximately $69,200. A $60,000 salary sits about 13% below that threshold. The margin for error is limited, and the decisions that most directly affect financial viability at that income, where to live, whether to share housing, how to navigate transit, and where to buy food, carry consequences that compound over time. The gap between what $60,000 sounds like and what it produces in New York City every month is the whole problem. This video gave you the framework. The decisions, where to live, whether to share housing, how to manage transit and food costs, are yours to make. If you want the borough by borough rent breakdown, that video is already. If there is a specific expense you want covered in more depth, leave it in the comments. Subscribe for the same level of analysis applied to every major financial decision you face living in this city.